Hello everybody and welcome back to another video by GripBeats. Today we're going to be covering using the GripBeats desktop app, part 3. Today we're actually using a pre-existing MIDI controller. For anyone unfamiliar, this is basically a form of electronic musical instrument which outputs MIDI, kind of like GripBeats. The difference is that GripBeats of course is wireless and also you wear on your hand. You can also put GripBeats on a surface and play it like a little piano or drum pad also. This is the Akai APC Key 25. It's basically just a MIDI keyboard with some buttons here, so you can also play drums if you want. And there's some dials also to map to various controls on your DAW. So I want to show you today how you can actually combine the use of both a MIDI controller and GripBeats to create an experience which is personalizable and effective. So without any further ado, let's get started. So you'll know from our previous videos that, well, you'll know the process of how to set up your GripBeats device, how to put it on like this, but essentially, personally, and the way we designed it was to put the crown of the GripBeats device on the wrist facing outwards, kind of like Iron Man if you like, and then the strap to be worn through the thumb and the index, around the knuckles, around the palms again, and then attach the little slider on the top there. Of course, the device is completely intuitive and a new invention, so you can actually wear it however you like. So I'm going to turn it on by clicking and holding the power button. You should feel a little vibration depending on the patch you've downloaded. The patch on this purple GripBeats device should be the GripBeats desktop patch, which is important because I want to be able to use this device with the GripBeats desktop app. And the reason for that is because I want to be able to have some personal control of the parameters and map them to Ableton directly. The other patches we've created, as most of you will know now if you've watched the previous tutorials, are made and predefined so that you don't have to go via the GripBeats desktop app. You can just go straight into your Ableton, Logic, GarageBand, digital audio workstation and just get MIDI, predefined MIDI responses immediately. So we're trying to connect the device now, the GripBeats device, in the audio MIDI setup. We're going to go to Windows, Show MIDI Studio. At this point you can click the little Bluetooth button, and assuming your GripBeats device is turned on and charged, you can now connect. So that will now connect. And the way to double check it's really connected and is indeed the GripBeats desktop patch that's flashed to it is to open up the GripBeats desktop app. I'm opening it on Mac right now, but you can also open it on Windows as well. I'm going to refresh the inputs here, you can see I've got my APC MIDI keyboard here also. I'm going to find the GripBeats Bluetooth device, expand the tab, and you can see that I'm getting a response on the value here, and also acceleration, you can see. So that's good. If you feel like you're not getting as accurate a response on the data as you'd like, or you feel like pitch, for example, is showing as roll, for example, that's the case right now, or roll is showing as pitch, you should click and hold the power button for 2 pulses. By pulses I mean little vibrations, which you'll feel. Hold your hand out straight, wait about 3 seconds. You should get a double pulse response to indicate that the calibration, which is what we're doing, has completed. And then you should see all the data reset and hopefully get more accurate data. Now it seems like pitch is still mapped to roll and roll to pitch. And in that case, we're going to expand the tab, the visual interface even further still, and then click this little interchange button. So now roll is roll and pitch is pitch. The reason for that, and we say this in every video, is because sometimes the device is not able to distinguish which is which. That's just down to the programming, which we're currently still developing. Anyway, So now that we have our GripBeats device connected to the GripBeats desktop app, I now want to select the output. So I'm going to refresh the output and I'm going to choose this driver bus. It's basically a channel that allows me to output this data as an input into Ableton, which is over here. I'm going to maximize. Now you want to make sure you've got a MIDI channel open, which is what's going on here. Okay, that's what this is. This little red section is basically connected to this device here. You don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to find an instrument here, because the idea is that I play this instrument, play the sound, and then with my left hand I can modulate or change the effects. So it's important to find a nice instrument here. Let's go to, by the way, this is the selection on Ableton instruments. You do all the other things as well. Electric, synth, rhythmic. Oh, that's a little bit too much. Also a bit strange. There are hundreds on here, so it's really I like the synth rhythmic. Let's go with this one. So in theory now, so all MIDI, the ins is currently set to all MIDI ins. So in theory, I'll also get response from this. You want to go to settings, make sure that the raw data of the GripBeats device is not streaming in, which it isn't. So that's good. Right. So, but of course we selected the output on the GripBeats desktop app here, so it is going to receive GripBeats data. So, but we only want it to come from the APC here. So let's try to set that up. Would it be this one? So that's working. And now when I squeeze my GripBeats device, I don't get an output. So that's good. We've isolated the track there to just be for this MIDI controller. Honestly, I would like it to be a little bit more cleaner so we understand what's going on in terms of the instrument. So I'm just going to change it to an electric piano. So we should hear now the piano. Sorry, give it a second. Of course, I've got a wonky keyboard here. You should be able to hear that. Be nice to go up an octave. So that's the beauty of this. I'm not advertising this controller, but I can press the button here, it goes up an octave or down an octave. So what I'm doing is, I'm using this controller here, right? And the idea is that I'd like to use my GripBeats device to change the sound. So let's see what kind of sounds are here. You have to experiment. I'm just going to experiment with the mouse for now. Of course, I'm only playing it through the speakers, so I can't hear much of a difference with these various effects. Normally with earphones it's much better. The octave, of course, will be a little bit more obvious, but I don't want to change that. Volume, it's too much. So if we mentioned this in our previous video, if you can't find something which is obvious enough or effective enough, then you could just go into MIDI effects And I'd really like some sort of like vibrato, 1 1 1 1. So I need to try to remember what that might be. See, I'm not too familiar either with all the effects. You really have to explore. But now I'm not going to go arpeggiator. EQ is always one. I don't know if vibrato is going to be the term they use. Shaper. A lot of this just requires experimenting. Let's just experiment with velocity here. Not getting anything there, so I can actually interchange that with another thing here by clicking that little button. Random. Okay, that might be appropriate for this situation. I don't really resonate with that. Let's try something else. If not, I'll just go with arpeggiator. This is an interesting one. See, with things like changing the rhythm or the tonality, GripBeats, it can be used to change. But the thing is that it's such a dynamic controller, it's such a range of change, and these controls, such as changing the rhythm, the arpeggiator, and also tonality, are changes that need to be typically are more. They use more subtly. So, so for example, you wouldn't quickly change. You wouldn't change through 5 different arpeggiator rhythms. Typically, you just want to change one at a time. So what I'd probably look for instead is an EQ or sound, an actual literal sound quality effect, which can be appreciated for its change over time. So let me look for EQ. EQ is probably going to be, I can't remember the name of it. What was it? Alright, let me just cut that off. We don't need that right now. Just delete that. The effects. You can also do audio effects. I'll just use auto filter. Just double check this is going to work. There you go, that does work. So you're not just limited to using the MIDI effects, you can do an audio effect too. There you go, that's the, I guess that was the LFO that I was talking about earlier, where I wanted this wobbly effect. So if I want to, therefore, be able to play and add that wobbly effect, the LFO, something like this. I do it like that, and I'd like to therefore map my left hand to the LFO on this specific dial, and the way to do that is to mute all the other outputs. So I like to do rolls, so I'm just going to map the roll. I'm going to mute everything else, including acceleration, gyroscope, yes. Okay, that's all muted. So now if I go to Command M, it automatically detects that the only output is my roll. Of course, if you press a button on your keyboard here, it's going to detect that too. So that's another dial there, but I don't want the 152. I don't want this mapping to this. I want this one. So, and you should detect that by moving your hand. Once you've detected it, I think you can just press Enter or Command M to come off. And you can see that now my left hand is mapped to the LFO there. So now when I play a chord like this, sorry, let's try again. And I move my hand to the right, I adjust this LFO, therefore I add LFO. I can add this wavy effect. I hope you can hear that. The sound of this instrument dies. So you can play with that. Turn it down because it keeps distorting. That's without the wobbling, without the LFO. And this is with. That's it. So that's therefore an example of how you can use GripBeats to change anything really within the when using another MIDI controller. I might actually try to change the instrument, to be honest. Something less synthy also. Let's just go piano. Let that load. Or is that what we've already got? Right, let's try this. Let it load. With the LFO. Oops. Yeah, there you go. Here I am wondering why it's, well, that's a problem, and it's because it's missing its, I'm wondering why it was wonky, and it is because it's missing one of its little rests at the bottom there, so I'll just have to try to use this for now. Okay. So that's nice for the LFO. Let's see what else we can do here. All right, that gets a little bit, what do you call it, sci-fi, but let's have a go. So now that resonance is also of the resonance and the LFO of the auto filter, the EQ, is now mapped to my left hand, you can see. course, I'm using one hand to play the piano, the other hand to control the sound. If the instrument itself is fixed, you might have to experiment with, you know, something like that. But if you want to play chords, it gets a little harder, especially if it's on your wrist. But then you could consider putting it on your elbow, actually. It's not a bad idea. I've never done that, actually. Assuming you want to change the effect with your arm. So let me try that. I think it's a little bit too. Oh, I see. The device itself won't fit around my arm with the normal wrist strap, but it's possible to do it with the actual. It might be possible to do it with the actual arm strap here. Let's try that. Of course, it's not practical in a way. There's probably a better way to fix that into position. I just tuck it in there for now. That's kind of working, actually. And honestly, you can probably go back into the settings of the GripBeats desktop app to map your precise movement to something more, to make it more accurate and practical. So, for example, we're using roll, right? And this is the motion I'm getting, but I'm only getting about 1/3 of that rotation. So if I go here, assign that to my minimum in the calibration section, and call this my maximum, I'm now getting the full range of motion from just that, by simply mapping the min and max in the GripBeats desktop app. So now if I go onto here, you see I'm able to control the sound much more sensitively. That's quite cool. And like I said before, I know it looks funny with my big fingers in this little keyboard. This is a roll motion, okay? We also have, if we look here, pitch as well. So pitch in this case would be, so our roll is here. So what would pitch be? More inwards. Well, because it's interestingly placed on the hand and we've not recalibrated it, we're not actually able to distinguish what's what. Let's try that actually as an experiment. If I calibrate the raw data, the device itself, by clicking and holding the power button for 2 pulses, releasing, assuming this is my rested position. And now, because the device is pointing that way, roll is that way, but that's not correct. I'm trying to remember the positioning. You might have to experiment with this. So that seems to be very reliably a roll. So pitch should be more reliably, there you go, you can see pitch is changing, but also roll. So there should be a way to, there should be a specific angle for pitch, which doesn't also trigger roll. I think this one is yaw actually. This requires some experimenting. As I say, I've never done this before. It's usually on my hand, and I know that that is roll, that's pitch, and this is yaw. But today we've got it on my bicep, my elbow here, and we're just playing with the roll. People might be wondering, can you map multiple parameters simultaneously? And the answer is yes. If you are able to distinguish between, if you're able to create motions that are distinguishable, for example, do a rotation which doesn't necessarily trigger the others so much. For example, roll is very accurate and sensitive here. Yaw isn't moving. So if you could find, in theory, if you could therefore find the rotation that maps to yaw without moving the others, then you could also use that reliably. Right now we've just got roll, which is moving, honestly. So let me try to calibrate this again. I didn't prepare this, but for that sake, it's like experimenting, and you can also feel what it's like to experiment. So if my device is here, I'm just going to have to feel it. That seems to be roll. Something in this motion. Oh, there you go. Again, this is on my elbow. I've never worn it on my elbow before. And if I was to actually think about it logically, let's see. Normally the device is on the hand like this, and roll, if you calibrate it there, roll is like this, yeah. Yaw is like this, you can see that's working, and pitch is like this, so that's changing. But if I put it on my, this is probably a better way to wear it. If I put it there, but then of course the strap doesn't reach, so I'm going to use the strap there, rotating the main to 90 degrees. We'll displace the origin. So now everything is kind of rotated 90 degrees to the left there. I could calibrate again. Yeah, I could calibrate again. So now it's facing this way. So with it facing this way, your pitch should be like that, yaw should be like that, and roll should be like that. Now of course I'm not going, I could do roll like this. There you go, so there's my roll. So now we're actually trying to reverse engineer it here. So that's the roll, very reliably. It's like that, right? Pitch should be like this, but it's coming as yaw right now, which is interesting. I would have assumed that would have been yaw, yeah, because that's the motion for yaw, right? And then pitch would have been something like that. But that's what roll's coming for. Oh, okay, because they're interchanged. So my roll is now indeed this. So we've worked it out. Okay, thanks for your patience. Roll is now this one on the elbow, kind of like an uppercut. Pitch is like this, kind of like chicken wing. Yeah, don't write these terms down. And yaw is kind of this rotation. Okay, with that said, I want to play the piano. I want to play the piano, but I want to be able to do it with just this motion. So this motion is, if I remember this one, is pitch, right? But we've already mapped roll, so I'm just going to go with roll right now. And I'm going to change the min hit to be here and the max to be here, so that should change things. Actually, the min should be here. Yeah, okay. What's happening here? So I know these videos can go on for an hour even, and a lot of it is just experimenting. I'm not even sure people will be sitting through all of them. But this was just to demonstrate how GripBeats can be used on the arm. I could have got to the point to show you how to map two parameters simultaneously, but I think I'm going to reserve that for the next tutorial. And now it's interesting to see how you can combine MIDI instruments with GripBeats to create an experience that is personal to you. If you've got any requests or curiosities, don't hesitate to contact us here or on our website, GripBeats.com. We look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. See you at the next video. Bye-bye.